What's your Tyler's back with retro reviews here on Tyler's Retro Reviews with WWF Survivor Series 1996, and we're going to do Survivor Series reviews for the month of November, like I always do for this, because So yeah, you obviously know what the four are. You obviously know it's this one. Next week will be 2005, and then the week after that will be 2013, and then the last one will be 2015. But anyways, let's get on to it. And you always know what the community have on here will be uh what December's will be is a WCW related month. So there is that. Anyways, November 17th, it was in Madison Square Garden in New York City. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're in New York City, it's always gonna be a good one. Let's be fair here. And yeah, let's talk about Survivor Series '96. This was during a time where I already did all those like 2 years ago on my main channel, but you clearly obviously know what it is. It was like one of my last times I did like retro reviews on the main channel, but yeah. Anyways, let's talk about the pay per view. And yeah, and tomorrow will be my SmackDown review, and then Saturday it'll be a late breaking news with Patrick, so you can start communication on that one. And I'm gonna say this right now. Why in the background was Eric Bischoff talking to Goldberg? Stay tuned for that. So yeah. Um. Let's talk about. Let's get on to it with the first of what the 4-on-4 elimination matches. Yeah. Well, on the main show, not counting the pre-show, I guess. Sorry. With the Godwins of Harry Godwin and Phineas Godwin, Doug Furnas and Phil LaFon defeats the British Bulldog, Lee Cassidy, Marty Jannetty, and Owen Hart. Lee Cassidy, by the way, is Al Snow, so you can tell that why. Um. Anyways. So let's get on to it. First one eliminated was Marty Jannetty. I mean, yeah, by Henry Godwin, and Henry Godwin was eliminated by Owen Hart, and Phineas Godwin was eliminated by the British Bulldog, and um, there's that. And then Lee Cassidy was eliminated by Phil LaFon, aka Al Snow, was eliminated by Phil LaFon. I don't know who these guys were. Then the Bulldog was eliminated by Phil LaFon, and then down to Owen Hart and left, and he was the last man eliminated by Doug Furnas, and they were the survivors of this match. It did its job. I mean, to get this new team over, but yeah, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. You know, it was a fine opener. Anyways, next up is the feud between The Undertaker and Mankind, because Mankind came in the night after WrestleMania 12, and he started his feud with The Undertaker, and I gotta tell you, these two had some of the craziest fucking brawls ever. If you want to talk about more crazy, Hell in a Cell match came right 98, and you obviously know about that. They also have a crazy Buried Alive match the month prior, where Undertaker won that match, but then he gets attacked, and then he gets buried alive also afterwards. And then this was the rebirth of The Undertaker. This was like a prototype version of what he'll be looking like in the next few months, and becomes that. And funny enough, I have that from the vault figure of that. You saw that a little bit last year. And this one is Paul Bearer suspended above the ring in a shark cage. So The Undertaker defeats The Undertaker defeats Mankind. My apologies. This was a fun match, but yeah, it was a fun match. So there's that, fun match, and Undertaker won this match, and he was going to get his hands on Paul Bearer, but then the Executioner stops him, and that did not happen for Taker, unfortunately. A 7 out of 10, not their best match, but again, these two have some crazy ass fights. I don't want to call them matches, but they're crazy fights, really. Anyways, next up is another 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match. Jake Roberts, Mark Miller, Rocky Maivia, aka this guy, The Rock, and Jim Ross says that's gonna be the man right there, and he wasn't lying. And the Stalker, now Jake Roberts was the last minute replacement for Mark Henry, so yeah, defeats Crush, Goldust, Jerry Lawler, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley, aka Triple H. Um, and yeah. So Jake Roberts eliminates Jerry Lawler first. There's that. And the Stalker, by the way, is Barry Windham. Was eliminated by Goldust, and then Hunter Hearst Helmsley was eliminated by Mark Merrow, and then Mark Merrow was eliminated by Crush, and then Crush also eliminates Jake Roberts. It's funny, he's in this one in my Halloween Havoc 2000 review last week when it was Brian Adams getting destroyed by Goldberg, but still. And then Crush was eliminated by Rocky Maivia, and then it came down to The Rock and Goldust gets eliminated last by Rocky Maivia, and he becomes the sole survivor. And it was a good way to showcase him. Let's be honest here. And 2 years later, he comes The Rock, or 1 year later, rather, comes The Rock, and then 2 years later at Survivor Series, he wins the WWF Championship. And hey, he did well for this. Well, then again, but still. So yeah, I give it an 8 out. Nah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 also. My bad. Anyways. Then we get the match to determine the number one contender for the WWF Championship. Bret Hart defeats Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was around the time Austin does the famous 316 says I just whoop your ass promo after he won King of the Ring, and and then he begins says you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you have my second opinion on Bret Hart. Yeah. And Bret Hart did return, and he will face Steve Austin here, and not their best match. I think their match at WrestleMania 13 was their best one, but regardless of that, that led to the whole double turn in that match, where Bret turned heel and Austin was sort of a face, but he was mostly a tweener. And there's that, but still. I give it a 9 out of 10, the match of the night, and we'll move on from there. And so, yeah. Bret Hart won, but he did not win the title the following month at In Your House It's Time, which that was meant for Vader to win the title here, by the way. We'll get to that by we get to the main event. But speaking of which, we get the last 4-on-4 elimination match. Him, the fake Diesel, and fake Razor. The fake Diesel, by the way, is Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. Kane. And Farouk, they fought Jimmy Snuka, Savio Vega, Flash Funk, and Yokozuna into a no contest. This was Yokozuna's last match in WWE, and God, look at him at this point. He was so oh my god, it was not fun to look at that. But anyways, the first one eliminated was Savio Vega by Fake Diesel, and then Fake Razor was eliminated by Jimmy Snuka, and then everybody else got eliminated by brawling. So a 0. And again, Vader was meant to win the title here because of the whole SummerSlam thing where, you know, he wins by countout, then he won by disqualification, and Shaw winning at the end, but that did not happen, unfortunately. So Sid took his spot at Buried Alive when he won that No Contenders match, and yeah, and speaking of which, the main event for the WWF Championship, Psycho Sid defeats Shawn Michaels to win the WWF Championship. Sid got cheers, Shawn got boos in this match. But then 4 years later, in this exact same location, Shawn got a Heroes Welcome in Madison Square Garden, so yeah. This was another good match. Sid would hit Jose LaFerre with a camera, and then there was a ref bump, and then Sid hit Shawn with a camera, and then power bombs him to win his first world champion. So it's an 8 out of 10 for that, and Sid had a pretty decent run with the title, but again, this was originally supposed to be for Vader to win the title, but that didn't happen, unfortunately, but still. So yeah. There is that, and so overall this was a good Survivor Series again. And you know, all I can say is a 7 out of 10 for it. So next week, we're going 9 years later to 2005 with Survivor Series 2005. The tagline is the beginning of the end. And yeah, this is the Brand Warfare main event match. Well, actually there's 2 others on here. Yeah. But not the entire event is Brand Warfare. Thank God for that. But yeah, this is next week's review, by the way. So subscribe and click on this channel and you will see Survivor Series 2005, but that's next week. So like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel right here on notification bell. And on my main channel, like I said, the SmackDown review will be on tomorrow, and then Saturday will be the late breaking news with Patrick. And there's that. Subscribe to notification on that one also. So there's that. And there. Bye-bye.